Hey everybody, it's PJ from Saber Tactical, and in today's video we're going to do something that's just a little bit different. I'm going to be installing this Bergara BR-14R 22 long rifle. This is a Remington 700 short action rifle, firearm, and I'm going to be putting it into the brand new Saber Tactical Menace chassis. And once I get through the install, I'll walk you through some of the features that this brings to the table. But it is a fairly simple and straightforward installation and a new direction for Saber Tactical. So a little bit more on that as the video goes on. So for starters, I have the barreled action here. So it consists of the barrel, the action, the bolt, and the trigger unit. Now, I have already, prior to removing this from its stock, I had already checked to be sure that it is unloaded. And whenever you're dealing with a firearm and doing any sort of work on it, you want to both visually, so look into the action and make sure you can see that there is no bullet in there. And then physically put your finger down in there to make sure there's nothing in there that can go boom, because this is a go boom kind of thing. And you want to make sure that's open. So I have confirmed visually and physically that this firearm is unloaded. I can put the bolt back in, and I've checked the documentation from Bergara. It is safe without a snap cap in here to dry fire this. I wouldn't make a habit of it, but it is safe to do so. So I know that this action is safe and ready to go, and so I'm ready to do the installation. So this chassis, one of the cool things about it, try and show you here, there's a cutout on each side. And what this allows us to do is make a chassis that is fully ambidextrous. So in the packet of stuff that comes with your Menace chassis, there are two small black blocks. And what you need to do, I'm going to set this up, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to set this up for a right-handed shooter. That means the bolt is going to be on the right side of the chassis. So I need to block the space on the left. So I'm going to take the block that is made for that, and there's a little tiny screw that you put in there. And your kit will come with this little tiny, I don't even know if you can see that, guys, little tiny Allen wrench. And all I need to do is take it, again like this, so the tab is off to the side. And I slot that right down into the rifle, or into the chassis. And then I take the little Allen wrench, get that straight, and I just tighten that screw in. Now you could, if you wanted, take just a little dab of blue Loctite and put it on that screw before you put it down in there. If you don't intend on switching this over at any point in time, that might be a good option for you. But for today, not using Loctite. I'm not making this like super Gorilla tight. There's really no movement there. So I just need it snug down. And that's going to give us a nice flat finish on that side, but we're still cut out for where the bolt is going to be. So next on the list is going to be to grab the three big bolts that come with the kit. And they're kind of, well, I guess I'd say this is small. We'll call that medium. And we'll call this one triple extra large. So those are the three that we're going to use to put the install together. Let's start with the small one. The shortest of the bolts is actually going to join the chassis at the front, right here. It's going to come in this way, go through there, and then screw into the action at the front. The triple extra large is going to go behind the trigger guard into that hole right there, and that's going to attach to this tang at the back of the action. And then the third is going to be, dropping one out there, your grip screw. So the kit, the chassis itself comes with Saber Tactical's rubberized vertical grip. It also comes with a thumb shelf. And as we'll see in a couple minutes, there are a couple of different attachment options for that thumb shelf. So, got the screws identified so I know which one is going where. And the next thing to do is going to be to orient the action into the chassis. So, it's really not very complicated. You need to slide the barrel through the bridge. Now that bridge does come off. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And you could remove this first if you wanted to, and then you would just have to slot down as opposed to feed through and then slot down. So we get that in there and everything lined up, and then hold it in place and flip it over. Now which of these you choose to do first doesn't particularly matter. You do need a 3/16 Allen in order to attach. So I'm going to get that one started a little bit. And I'm going to get the, remember it's the short screw up front. Get that one started a little bit. And I'm just getting things in until they bottom out. I'm not really tightening anything down yet. So I'm pretty close to having this installed. It's actually that easy. But I do want to just talk a little bit about the Remington short action, or Remington 700 short action spec. When we talk about stuff in terms of mil spec, we expect across the industry things to be pretty well lined up, like pretty consistent across the board. Our experience with the Remington 700 short action spec is a little bit more like suggestions as opposed to hard and fast guidelines. The reason I'm bringing this up is we built this chassis to the specifications provided by Remington for their short action platform. And there are a lot of guns that conform very rigidly to that spec. There are also some out there that we've seen that while they fit in the chassis, things like the screw sizes are kind of like, well, they didn't have, in the case of what we supply for you, these are 1/4 28 screws. And the length is very specifically cut to meet the Remington 700 short action specification. But we've seen some rifles out there that are called Remington 700 short action compliant, if that's the right word. But in actuality, well, we had one in the shop the other day that it fit the chassis beautifully, but it uses a 7mm metric screw. It's made in a country that doesn't use the imperial system, very much metric. And so if you have one of those, you're just going to have to source those screws. What we supply is the 1/4 28, which is specifically in the Remington 700 short action chassis description. Like that's what it's supposed to be. So if you've got a rifle that is not totally compliant with the Remington 700 short action spec, it may fit the chassis. You may have to sort some of your own fasteners. So now that I've got those two in and I know they're bottomed out, I can go and actually tighten them. And it doesn't take much more than like a 1/4 turn to get those snugged in. If you are curious about a torque spec, because all of these rifles are manufactured by different manufacturers and the torque spec is really about the receiving end, contact your rifle manufacturer to see if they have a torque spec for those fasteners. So just like that, it's mounted and good to go. We do want to put on the pistol grip, and this is one area where you do want to pay careful attention to getting it right. I find it easier if I can get the bolt through the hole first, and then I can line up to put it onto the action. One of the things that I will really encourage you to pay attention to is how this feels when you do it. Many of you have probably installed a whole bunch of pistol grips, made all the mistakes, and you can just ignore me what I'm saying. But if you've never done this before, it is entirely possible to start one of these grip screw bolts off on kind of a wonky angle. There is this hole in the back of the vertical grip that really helps in aligning that screw in. But if you cross thread this, keep in mind that the screw that you're putting into the chassis is steel, and the body of the chassis is aluminum, and steel beats aluminum most of the time. So I'd hate to see you trash the threaded hole here by cross threading a grip screw. So once you get that in, and it should go in nice and easy, tighten that grip screw down, and you've installed a rifle into a chassis. You can certainly make sure everything is working right. There should be no issues with the bolt moving. There should be no issues impeding trigger function. Your safety should work just like it did in its original stock. So let's talk about the features. So starting at the front, this is a night vision bridge, and its primary function is for the ability to attach a thermal unit to the front that then you look at through your scope for night hunting. This has a spacer, and it comes pre-installed with the spacer on the chassis. If, as in the case with this rifle, and I don't know, maybe you can pick it out, but what you'll notice is the front rail, the bridge, is actually higher than the scope rail in back. This particular Bergara has a low scope rail. So if I were setting this up, what I would do is take the 6 screws that are on the bridge out, and then I'd go to my parts, and you've got a bag of 6 shorter screws. You'll take the 2 bridge pieces out. It's just a sheet, like a stick of aluminum with 3 holes in it. On either side, take that out, then attach with the smaller screws, and that will lower this so that you get co-witness between the Picatinny scope rail and the bridge. So we give you basically 2 bridge heights to work with so that you get good co-witness if you're using that bridge. You've got along the rail M-lock spots. So if you want to add weights to your rifle, it's a simple matter of just bolting those in. You might notice that the opening here, the width of this is really quite large. This chassis was designed to work with some of the big barrels that are on the market. Some of them are big, heavy bull barrels. Some of them are made out of composite materials. But we've made this chassis to accommodate those larger barrels usually used for competition. So if you've got a question as to why is it so big, that's part of that answer. I also think that if I were shooting this offhand, I do like the extra thick up here. It just is very comfortable for holding on and shouldering. If you look carefully, I think you'll be able to see that there are 3 more holes there. And what that means is if you want, you could take the bridge off from this front and you could slide it back. So there is some adjustability of that. There's pretty even spacing between them. So you've got some movement adjustability there. On the bottom, you've got more M-lock. You've also got some threaded holes for different accessory attachments, and you've got full-length ARCA going the whole length of that rail. At the back, you've got a barricade stock with some grooving in it. Then you've got these two, and these will allow you to attach, I'm going to say a trigger mechanism. I don't mean a trigger mechanism like this trigger. I mean like a trigger mechanism for a remote light or a laser range finding module. It's basically an accessory attachment point, and those are also set up so that you can just connect right to them. Pretty cool stuff there. Now, I mentioned the thumb shelf. So this comes with the thumb shelf, which is literally a shelf for your thumb. And it can adjust up and down, and it can angle forward and back. And on each side of the gun, the grip itself has a hole that you could attach the thumb shelf to. And then there are 3 different points where you can put it either on the right or left side for right or left-handed shooters for a thumb out position or a wraparound thumb position. So pretty substantial amount of flexibility in where you mount that. Moving further back, you have the release for the folding stock. And underneath these 2 silver screws, you can adjust the lockup on this. So one of the challenges of making a chassis with a folding stock is you want the convenience of the folding stock, but when it opens, you want it rock solid and you don't want any movement. So the way that we've developed this hinge, you can actually adjust these 2 screws to give you maximum lockup for a rigid shooting platform. When you do open this, there is here and here a magnetic catch that gives you really solid, you know, if you bump it, it's going to go, it's going to open, but very solid lockup. Right here, this cheek piece has screws on the back side so that you can adjust the height. So you get about an inch worth of climb there. Maybe it's a little bit longer. If you need the specs, please take a peek on the Saber Tactical website so we can get you that information. But you have adjustable cheek height, and these are locked down with set screws. We find that most of the time, once you get this set, the last thing you want is it coming loose from a non or a tool-free nut that's sitting there. On the back, we also have length of pull adjustment, and this is tool-free. This has these big knobs. And these go all the way through the post. Take this out. You can see how many adjustment points you get. And the reason we did the pass-through adjustment points as opposed to a set screw is while sort of the infinitely adjustable is nice, we find that especially in competition and other hard use instances, having these really locked down, and by locked down in this case, there's a bolt going through it, just leads to more stability. So this one we were content, you know, like you're not putting that much force down on your cheek. But this, you know, this can be bumped and jiggled and hammered. And of course, this particular build is .22 long rifle, but the Remington 700 short action goes up into the 30 cal, so significantly more recoil. So we wanted that to be as sturdy as possible. So that's why there's the pass-throughs there. You also have a rubber butt pad on the back. Coming around underneath, you have a bag rider, and then right here, if you notice, you've got the Magpul style QD sling attachments. I didn't mention it up front, but you have one on either side under that bridge there. So you've got QD attachments. All in all, it's a really nice setup, very sturdy, very robust, and definitely allows you full function of the rifle, plus plenty of accessory attachment points for whatever style shooting you're doing. So I have one other thing to talk about before I wrap up the video, and that's magazines. As I've said, the Remington 700 short action specification, if you will, has been adopted by a whole bunch of different manufacturers. So there's lots of people making these rifles. That's why we've made a chassis for them, because there's a lot of them out there. And so there's a lot of people making magazines for these rifles in various calibers. We've done everything we could to engineer this magazine well, the internal components, so that your magazine goes in, stays in, orients properly, so that when you cycle the bolt, ammunition is put forward, and when you push the paddle, your magazine comes out. So we've got this oversized magazine release paddle right in front of the trigger guard. Very easy to access. Let me get a spare over here, right? So very easy to drop. I wouldn't reload with this hand, but that's where it is. Back on target, ready to go. Drop the magazine. We've done everything we can to orient all the internal parts so that that works. And we know that if you install your rifle into this chassis, we know it will work with the stock magazine that came with your rifle. Where things get a little complicated is where other companies manufacture magazines for this or that version of the Remington 700 short action, and you get some mix-ups that don't necessarily work out. This one, for example, this one doesn't quite catch. Now I know if we did some pushing on it, it will go in and catch. And I also know that if we ground off this tab a little bit, it would catch better. This one has to go in at kind of an angle, and honestly, the feeding is a little wonky. This other one, this one's actually made, you can see on the back, with an adjustable catch. This is definitely made to be more, a little bit more gun agnostic, I guess I would say. And it catches really nicely. And even if it didn't, I know I could make some adjustments on it in order to make it work. But it goes in there, it doesn't come out. This one, if you yank on it, it'll get a little funky. So we will be over on the Saber Tactical website, to the extent possible, when we get known good combinations of rifles and magazines, we will be trying to list those out. And if you as a user have known good or known bad combinations, we'd like to be able to share that with customers so that we're guiding people in the right direction. We don't make the actions, we don't make the firearm, we don't make the magazines, we just make the chassis. And so we want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible, helping you make good purchase decisions about the aftermarket stuff that you put on there. As close to a guarantee as we can make. If you're using, in this case, the stock Bergara magazine, we know it's going to fit. We've tested it and it's worked just fine. You get a little bit farther out on some of the other aftermarket things that are out there made for the platform. You may have to do a little modification in order to get those to fit right. It feels good, it looks good, tons of functionality. If you're looking for a Remington 700 short action chassis, I would definitely give the Menace a look. And if you have questions or you come up with known good magazine combos, known bad magazine combos, other notes on an install for other users, I'd love for you to throw them down in the comments, and we can transfer that over to the Saber Tactical website to help other customers out with their custom builds. Thanks for watching today, and until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight, and I'll see you around.